On behalf of our chairman, Deborah Lamb, our board of directors, and all of us at the Watch Hill Conservancy, welcome. I'm Jocelyn Leahy, the executive director of the Watch Hill Conservancy, and this is our 4th season of Lanphear Live. Tonight we are very excited to have John Dodd join us, and I'll have Pete August, Vice President and Science Advisor Chair of the Conservancy.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Let me begin with a little bit of literary history for my introduction. Our little Narragansett Bay, just behind me, has played a prominent role in the public awareness of sharks. 2 miles northwest of exactly where I'm standing is a small island called Elihu Island off Stonington. In the early 70s, a very accomplished writer lived in a modest house on Elihu Island and wrote one of the greatest shark stories ever told. The writer was the late Peter Benchley, the author of Jaws. Jaws was born in Little Narragansett Bay. It is a great pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker, John Dodd. We've not had a Lanphear Live speaker that's been in the recent news as often as John. It seems like every other day this summer there's an exciting story about shark sightings along our coast. John is the go-to expert to explain what we're observing. John Dodd is the executive director of the Atlantic Shark Institute, which coordinates scientific research and public education on sharks. Sharks are John's passion, which began at the age of 14 when he first saw his first blue shark. John's academic studies were biology and fisheries management at URI, and for many years worked with the NOAA Apex Predator Research Lab at the NOAA National Marine Fisheries Center in Narragansett. This evening we'll learn about the shark studies that John directs. He's a hands-on research scientist and has personally caught, tagged, and released over 500 sharks of almost a dozen different species. Maybe I should make that 501 because he was out yesterday just tagging another great white shark off our shores. Please join me in welcoming John Dodd.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. A little toasty in here, so hopefully everyone can enjoy the next 45 minutes or so, I think, and then we can open it up for questions. And if you have questions along the way, I'm not sure exactly what the format is, but you can feel free to ask them if you'd like. So fun fact up here, this is a great white jaw. It is not an actual great white. This is a wonderful model. It'll give you a little sense of the scope. This is from a 19-foot great white. This is put together tooth by tooth. Gordon Hubble actually did this. This was trapped in a net in California. This was a female, and it's a really, really good specimen. So when I'm done, feel free to come up and take a look, because you won't get this close to something like this, or at least you hope not to. If you decide to take a swim tomorrow off of Napatri or somewhere else. So, well, I'm really excited to be here. We've got some interesting things going on with the Atlantic Shark Institute. So let me get right to them. First of all, goals for today. Just going to try to demystify what we're doing and what's going on with sharks in this state and Block Island. And I really want to go into some detail on what we're doing with the great whites, because everyone is infatuated with them, excited about them. And also there's been a lot of shark stuff, right? A lot of shark sightings this summer, a lot of shark things going on. Shark Week helps that sometimes they don't, based on how they depict things. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the tools we use, and I have some of them here, and I'm going to pass them around and you guys can take a look at them. Introduce you to our collaborators and talk about what the future might hold. So my goal is to really have everybody leave here very understanding of what shark research is all about and what we're doing. So that everyone can, if somebody couldn't make it, you can say, I can tell you all about it. So this is all about demystifying things and hopefully turning everyone here into an advocate for this kind of research. As far as what we are, the Atlantic Shark Institute, we're a 501c3, we're a nonprofit down the street, South Kingstown. 100% funded by donors and supporters. Our goal to answer the most pressing questions about sharks. And we also collaborate and assist other research groups. So we actually collaborate with others because you can't do all of this yourself, and neither can they. And we're also founding members of the New England White Shark Research Consortium, which is a group of 15 organizations, begins here in Rhode Island and goes all the way up to Canada. So we're the Rhode Island group, as well as the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, who's been a great partner of ours. Why is this important? Well, there's still a lot of things we don't know about sharks. It's kind of funny because we know so much about so many things, but there's still a lot of things we don't know about sharks. They are apex predators. They keep our oceans healthy and balanced. There's a number of examples. I'll give you a very brief one. So you have a reef system, and you've got these apex predators, right? The sharks at the top, and then they've got all these cascading fish and other things that live within the reef system. And everybody says, hey, guess what? Someone came in and they cleaned out all the sharks. Isn't that good? That'll be a thriving reef system because they came in and they caught them all. It was a long line group, commercial operation, and they took all the sharks away. Isn't this great? Well, you come back in 6 months of the year, things don't look so great because that second tier of predator, instead of them being kept in check or in balance, and there might be 15 on the reef, which might be logical, there might be 50 or 100. Well, unchecked, they eat everything else on the reef, including the things that are cleaning the algae, all the other components that make up a vibrant ecosystem. So you think about sharks, there's a million examples like that, but it's why they're important. And they're important for everybody. They're important for the ocean, and they're important for the air we breathe, because of course a significant amount of the oxygen we breathe comes from the ocean. So it's estimated that more than 100 million sharks are killed every year. As we all know, that's pretty horrific, many for their fins and fins only. And in any given year, about 5 people die from shark attacks worldwide, which is horrendous, but clearly not a fair fight, over 100 million to 5. So these are the species that we study right now at the Institute. We've got Makos. They're endangered worldwide. It's our favorite shark. That's our logo, actually, the Mako Shark. They're endangered worldwide. They're significantly below target population levels, according to NOAA. So we love the Mako Shark. Unfortunately, a lot of fishermen love it too. It's a great fighting shark. It's a great tasting shark. But right now, they're trying to put together a management plan for them because the numbers are significantly reduced. And you'll understand why when we talk a little bit more about that shark. Great white shark. By the way, down below here, this is the IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. And this is how they designate everything. Least concern, near threatened, vulnerable, endangered, critically endangered, extinct in the wild, and extinct. So you can see on this chart, when you're looking at endangered, it's not a good place to be. You've got the great white, which is vulnerable worldwide, but also critically endangered in Europe and the Mediterranean. We're working on the blue shark. They're near threatened, but they're the most fish shark in the world. So we always want to keep an eye on that. We just tagged 2 of those females, which have been very hard to find, so we're a little concerned about that. Common Thresher shark, they're the one with the really long tail, and they've been hanging around along the beaches, which are scaring everybody in Rhode Island because I get calls all the time. They say, hey, there's a shark in the water, it's at the beach, and the reality is over 900 shark attacks that have been recorded worldwide. Not a single Thresher shark's been involved in any of them. So they're big. They do have teeth, so don't go play with them. But not a single attack. And the other thing that's interesting about that is, a lot of people misidentify sharks because a lot of them look the same, but the Thresher doesn't look like anybody but itself. It's got that huge tail. It's as long as the body. So not even a case of mistaken identity with the Thresher shark. So. And then the Porbeagle Shark, again, you can see it's another one that's vulnerable worldwide, critically endangered in Europe and the Mediterranean. The reason we talk about worldwide in some of these other areas is because these sharks travel everywhere. We just tagged a female blue shark near, we'll say Martha's Vineyard because it's an area, and it's already off the continental shelf and we don't know where it's going. So when you talk about protection and trying to protect sharks in a small area, you can just do so much. We tag sharks all the time here off New England, and I get tags back from Venezuela. Well, what are they doing in Venezuela? How are they protecting sharks? So it's a global issue, and it's a global management kind of project. So here's everybody's favorite, the great white shark. That's a picture I took in Guadalupe Island, Mexico. I was in a cage. I wasn't swimming. swimming around with them. So great whites, they can grow to 21 feet in length. They can weigh more than 4,000 pounds. That shark, that jar right there is probably 3,500 pound great white. I've caught them high 20s, 2,800 pounds. We've tagged and released them, and they weren't that big. They can live to 70 years old, really surprising. A lot of people are surprised by that. Here's something that's a little scary, though. To reach sexual maturity, they have to get to 30. So think about that for a minute. So if a shark, I'm going to show you a picture of a shark that I caught yesterday with my daughter Olivia, who's in the back. We caught a 4-foot 1-inch great white. That's a newborn. That's a female. That shark cannot reproduce for 30 years. So it gives you a little sense of what the math problem you're going to hear about here today, which is that shark cannot reproduce itself. Oh, and by the way, it's got to avoid a sea of hooks, commercial operations, other predators. So not only 30 years, but a maze of problems. 2 to 10 pups every 2 to 3 years. So once they get to that point, 18-month gestation period. We have them here in Rhode Island, and we're going to talk a lot about that in a couple of minutes. Here's our favorite, the Mako Shark. I love it because it looks like a missile. It looks like a Ferrari of the water. Absolutely gorgeous shark. Absolutely gorgeous. They're a little bit smaller, 13 feet, 1,400 pounds. They can live to a little over 30, 55 miles an hour in the water. 55 miles an hour dealing with water against your body. That's why I love them so much. Someone once described them as you took a block of wood, you push it through the water for 1,000,000 years, and it would come out in the shape of a Mako shark. Another scary statistic, though, is down here. Females mature at 20 years old. 610 pounds. So anybody in this room, has anybody seen a Mako hanging at a dock in a tournament that weighed 610 pounds or more? You don't see them. A little scary. But until they're that big, they don't reproduce for 20 years. Again, part of our math problem with sharks. So when you see a tournament and there's a shark hanging and it's 450 pounds, you say, that is a really big shark. Didn't reproduce. Female. Didn't replace itself. You see the tournaments all the time, a lot of tournaments. They're getting less and less, which is a good thing. Still, big problem. 4 to 25 pups, but they're 2 feet long. Again, small, they get eaten too, which is why you need a lot of them. Blue shark, gorgeous, long pectoral fins, a little bit smaller, 20 years of age, sexual maturity, a little better. Now we go back to our chart, right? They're not critically endangered because you're starting to look at, they sexually mature at a younger age. Look at the pups. The average is 25 to 50, so now we're getting away from 2 to 6 pups. Now we're looking at a lot of pups, but they are small. But it is the most caught and fished shark in the world, particularly their fins because they're so long, unfortunately for them. Most abundant shark worldwide, many here in Rhode Island. The only issue is we were trying to find a female for 2.5 months, and we finally found 2. So we put spot tags on both of them, which I'll explain in a little bit. You drill that into the dorsal, it goes onto the dorsal fin. It's got a wire, we can track it for 2 years. It falls off. One is off of south of Long Island. One decided to go to the continental shelf. We caught 40-something males before we found 1 female. Here's your Thresher shark. Has everybody terrified along the beaches. What they're doing is they're going in there because the bunker, they love bunker and schooling fish. They use this long tail. They get them into a circle, and then they take that tail and they slap it through the school, and they stun fish, and they turn around and they pick them all up. Easy meal. That's why this shark doesn't have a really big jaw, because of how it feeds. This guy's a little different, the great white over here on the ground. A little different. Neat thing about them, tails make up half their body. They're about 20 years old. This one now you're starting to see again. You can see till they reach maturity, starts to grow. And look, a few pups, 2 to 5. So clearly some of these guys weren't designed for heavy fishing. And Porbeagle, the thing I like about the Porbeagle is it's a cross between a great white and a Mako. It's not as sleek as a Mako shark. They find these in cold water, and we're doing a big study on those. We put 2 birth tags into the uteruses of these sharks this past season. We've been following them everywhere, and both of those that went right up to the beach in Cape Cod Bay at the same time about 2 months ago. We think they gave birth there. Love the open ocean, but decided to go all the way to Cape Cod Bay. Same time. Spent 2 days there and left. We think they gave birth and left their pups, and away they went. They love really cold water. That's why we don't hear a lot about them here, but they're mostly, they love, as you can see, they'll go down into the 33 degrees, really cold. We did a big show on them on Shark Week this year. 2 to 6 pups. So those are the big sharks we're studying here. Those are the 5 big ones that we deal with, that we think we can spend the most time with and get the biggest bang for their buck and our research dollar. And they're all, every one of those, by the way, unfortunately, the population is decreasing, every single one of them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about tagging technology, because this is going to tie right into what we're doing with these great white sharks, which everybody wants to talk about or hear about. So technology, it's one of the biggest advances that we've had for forever. And I'm going to show you some of the tools we're using. But this is a tag. This is a plastic tag. It's got a little barb at the end. You take this and you put this on a pole and you put it into a shark with a pole. You strike it and you put it into it. They don't move. They literally don't feel this for some reason. It's got a number on it. You fill out a card. The number on the card is the number on this tag, and this shark swims away. You mail the card into the National Marine Fisheries Service and you say, I caught a blue shark today that was 6 feet long. It weighed 100 pounds. Here's where I caught it. Here's the condition it was in, and it was a female. And you mail your card in. If somebody catches this shark 3 days later, they can cut this tag off, mail it in, and say, hey, we now know where that shark went in that 3-day period. However, if this shark swims around for 9 years and someone catches it in that exact same spot, you'd presume it never moved for 9 years, which wouldn't be correct. Because, of course, it could have gone anywhere for 9 years. So really cool, very inexpensive, supplied by our federal government, largest shark tagging program in history, and has value. But this was it for a long, long time. This is how we found out where sharks were going, which we didn't know before. Unfortunately, the return on these, believe it or not, only 4% are returned. A lot of them are taken by long lines, illegal fishing operations. They cut them and throw them away because they don't want you to know what they're doing. 4 out of 100. A lot of effort to find these sharks and put these in it, let me tell you. So a little bit about the cost of tags, but I'm going to put this up and then I'm going to pass them around. You guys can take a look at them. So here's the fishery service tag I just told you about. So then what happens is we start introducing technology to these studies, and it changes the game considerably. So picture you've got that plastic tag, and then we come up with this little gem. This is your acoustic tag. I'm going to pass this around. Everybody can look at it. Do me a favor, don't peel the sticker off because that'll turn it on. It won't hurt anybody. It'll just start draining my 10-year battery. I'm going to put it over here. You can walk through. So this is $425, and this will stay on a shark for 10 years. Every time a shark goes within 1,000 yards of an acoustic receiver, we're going to know it. And these are the receivers that for the first time in history, we put all around Block Island, which I'm going to show you on the screen. This is how we're getting all of our white shark detections that you're hearing all about. Those sharks are swimming around with this device. They're hitting these receivers, and we then know that shark number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 was at that receiver on July 4th at 2:10 in the morning. This is what it's all about. Acoustic tag, it's acoustic transmitting tag. They're coated, you'll feel there's a coating on them. That coating is designed to keep a bunch of growth from going on them.
How do you apply them?
Yeah, so great question. How do we apply those? There's actually a tether to it, which is a cable, which is rubber coated, and then it's got a mini dart. Same thing as the other one, it's a pole, and we strike it just at the base of the dorsal fin where it's all meat, there's no organs, and that's how we affix it. So we pop it in, it goes in about 2.5 inches, and that'll tether off and swim beside the shark's dorsal fin. Good question. Yes?
Do these sharks have a home where they go, to Venezuela and come back?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, most of these sharks, it's all about temperature, right? So for example, if you're a blue shark, there's a temperature range you like. So what I've been seeing here is 25 years ago, we had a lot of blue sharks that over-summered right here. We're starting to see that move a little more towards Massachusetts, a little more towards Maine. Guys in Maine are starting to complain a lot because they're tuna fishing and all the sharks are taking their bait off their hooks. So a little bothersome to me because I'm starting to see in my lifetime how these sharks are starting to gravitate a little bit more north because of water temperature. Because they can't decrease their body temperature. There are several sharks that did increase their body temperature, but they can't. So in the case of a shark, a blue shark, you better be in the waters that you like. And if it gets a little warm, they just go further and they find cooler water, which is why where they go is very predictable in terms of, I know that the first sharks are going to show up first week in June every year. It's the ones that are pushing a little bit, the blue sharks. The great whites are going to be a little bit earlier because they tolerate a little bit colder water. White sharks are also endothermic, meaning that they can raise their body temperature. Unique feature, but they burn a lot of energy doing it. So the question is it worth it to go into really cold water and burn all that energy? Well, you better be taking in a lot of food because otherwise you're going to lose weight. Here's our pop-off satellite tag. This little gem is $4,000. What's really cool about this, however, is we put this in a shark and for up to 2 years, it'll tell us everything that shark did. So that acoustic tag that's going around, remember, 1,000 yards from a receiver, right? For me to know where that shark is. If that shark's tagged and goes out to the middle of the ocean and never goes by a receiver again, we'll never know about that shark again. This, big difference, $4,000. Put this in a shark, trails behind the shark, same tether, right? Behind a shark for up to 2 years, it pops off at a predetermined time, floats to the surface, hits a satellite, and downloads all of the data. We know every single day, we can drive down to 5-minute intervals, their water temperature, the depth, and exactly where they were. Total recreation of the shark's life for 1 or 2 years.
Is it reusable if you might pick it up?
What's that?
Once it floats to the water surface, do you pick it up and reuse it, or is it dead after those 2 years?
That's a great question. We really want this back. I'll tell you why. Because you get about half your money back, number one. Number two, though, is we can get this super granular data from this if we retrieve it. Otherwise, it's every 10-minute interval or every 15-minute, because it can just transmit so much data. So if we can retrieve it, we can get it literally to the second, but we have to have the device. Super valuable. You're starting to get a sense of why these projects are expensive. Yeah?
Do you get any data before it pops off during that 1 or 2 year interval?
No, we can't. We don't get any data until it pops off. Correct. We just had one pop in the Bay of Fundy from a white shark that we tagged in, it was a 6-month tag, so we tagged it in March down in South Carolina. It's already pulling data, but we already put hey, can someone get to that little island? We think it's on an island because we can get 80% more data if we find it. And this little gem is our smart position and temperature tag. Super popular, $2,000 tag. This goes into the dorsal fin of a shark. Every time it breaks the surface, this antenna tells us where the shark is. About 2 years on this. This is what we just put in the 2 female blue sharks. So we said we finally found them. I'm on the back deck. We're getting hit by waves. You apply it, away it goes, and both of them are telling us exactly where they're going. Very important because we can't find them right now. Spot tag. All right, any questions on our technology? So you can see how far we've come from a plastic tag, invaluable by the way, but now we're really, but of course the issue is, you put a $4,000 tag in one shark, you know where one shark went. But that shark was a female and it was 5 feet long. What does a female at 7 feet long do? What does a female at 9 feet long do? What does a female of another species do? So you can see where this is a numbers game, which is how many of these things do you need to do and capture and track to get really good data that you can feel good about and that you can report on. So here's our acoustic receiver. So this is what I'm talking about earlier. This is the receiver. This is 1 of 10. That happens to be the tip of Fisher's Island, right over here. And that is sitting there. And at the base of that is this little gem. Here's it's all here. These are about $2,300 a piece. Demco makes these, it's a great tool. This sits underwater and listens constantly from when we put it in May to when we take it out in November. It does not transport data. We have to go, these have to break the surface of the water. We have to put a magnet in here. We Bluetooth it into a laptop, and then we take that data and we can analyze it to find out what's been swimming within 1,000 yards of that receiver. Not real time. $2,300, real time is about 15 grand. And you really don't need real time when you're doing this, right? Real time is valuable if you're on a beach in Cape Cod and you want to know that there's a white shark there. Well, we're going to get to that in a minute too, because guess what? What percentage of white sharks do you think have an acoustic tag in them? Not many. So every time they say, hey, guess what? There's a white shark. We just detected it. Everybody out of the water. The problem is that the percentage of tagged sharks, white sharks, is not as high as you'd like it to be if you're swimming. We're going to know that number soon. Dr. Greg Scommel, who we do a lot of work with up in Cape Cod, he's going to publish a paper with Megan Winton probably in the next year. We're going to have some real numbers on that. But it wouldn't surprise me to find out that 95% of great whites, maybe more, have not been tagged. So these receivers, first deployed in 2019. We were the first ones to deploy them in partnership with Rhode Island DEM. We have 13 deployed. They've got 15, so we have 28 in total. So we're listening in a lot of places in Rhode Island. They're attached to that buoy you saw, and we weigh them down with a 200-pound anchor, chain, cable. Hopefully they don't go anywhere. Deploy in May. They listen. Each tag has shark has a unique number. We already talked about that. We go and retrieve them. This is us retrieving. That's my daughter Abigail, who's back there. And that's her posing for her big moment. So she is analyzing. We're pulling data, and that's us at Block Island. So we have to go to each one. You got to pick a calm day. They're a bugger. They're heavy, and you got to get them out of the water. You get a rough day, it can make for a long day. So while you're all here, what have we detected? So I have a slide. First one is to put everybody at ease. Here's Watch Hill. No detections. Some people go, shucks, and other people say, that's awesome. So you can see where it is. There's the light. There's Napa Tree Beach. We have it right here. No detections. We put it there last year. We put it there this year. So far, nothing. Great white related. Tagged. Again, remember. Right? Remember. So far, we don't have any tagged white sharks that have come to this receiver. All right? Now, what we have had is a ton of striped bass. Very valuable, by the way. Guys in Chesapeake Bay who tag all the bass, they gate that whole bay so they know every one that leaves, right? Well, guess what? We're getting them here that they didn't know left. They thought they died. So they're really excited because we're giving them all this data, and they're saying, we thought number 1, 2, 3, 4 died. We thought number... So we do get sand tiger sharks here. Those are the ones you see at the aquarium with the really crazy teeth. So we did detect some sand tigers here. We've detected a lot of different kind of fish, but no white sharks. Okay, so here's what we're doing at Block Island. So this is 2019, okay? We had 2 receivers. We placed one over here at the southwest ledge, and we placed one over here by the Block Island Wind Farm. And we got 1 detection on each, 1 great white on each. And I'll tell you briefly who those were. We also got sturgeon, by the way, here at Watch Hill. Very cool. Yeah, Atlantic sturgeon. Again, because these tags, anything that's tagged with this acoustic tag will get picked up, so it doesn't have to be a shark. So we had 1 shark hit each of these, and this guy right over here was Webb, and that was an 11-foot male. So we had 11-foot great white cruise through on July 6th. And over here we had Sage 2, and that was a 12-foot female. So they cruised through, and away they went. But of course, we learned a little bit, but not a ton, right? Because more broad-scale movements, because we don't have enough receivers. So we don't know what they did after that. So what did we do? 2020, we added more receivers. So you can see we had, this one still here, we had one, but we added 2 more here. We added one in the southeast corner, one here on the beach, and one here on the other side, on the west side. And look what happened. Suddenly we got 3 in here next to the beach. We got none on the east side. We picked up 3 now down here, southeast corner. We got none here, 1 here, and 4 in red. We picked up 4 of these sharks that came through the top of the wind farm. So again, the question becomes, you know, why? Why are we seeing nothing here yet? You know, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. So let me give you a quick description of, just so it's a little bit more enjoyable, I guess. So the west side here, we got 1 shark from OSearch, the research group OSearch, but we don't, they didn't give us data on the size or sex, so we don't know what that was, but we know it was a great white. Miss Carolina, really funny. Miss Carolina, she's an 8-foot, 2-inch female. What's really cool about that, she was tagged off Hilton Head, and I tagged her. So I tagged her there, and then she came up here and hit my receiver. So that was really cool, because I had to call Chip Michaeloff, who I work with down there, and say, guess who just visited? Miss Carolina came through. And then the other one that we had on the west side was Kibble, an 8.5-foot female. So 3 here. Again, we ended up with 1 down in this corner. And these are all different size sharks, 9.5-footer, 11-foot, 2-inch one at the Block Island Wind Farm, number 3. So that was an 11.5. That's a good size shark. We also, the one at the southwest ledge, this was 13 feet, 2 inches long. That's a really big one. So then you say to you, well, Jaron, how do you know how big these sharks are, right? How do you know it's 13 feet, 2 inches? How do you know? Well, because when we tag, we take all these measurements, right? So Greg Scommel tagged 5 great whites 3 days ago in Cape Cod. Had a great day. Spotter plane flies around, says, hey, we have a white shark. He directs the boat. Greg's on the boat. They video both sides of the shark, and then they plant a tag in it. So they get really detailed measurements, size, sex, etc. Put a tag in it, away it goes. I get that data because he's a good friend of mine. He's also a URI grad. He shares it with me, so I know that number corresponds with that shark. So it's kind of neat because it takes all the guesswork out of it for us. Yes?
Do the seals like the windmills?
The seals do not like the windmills. We haven't seen any. The seals tend to like up here. Depends on the season, too. They kind of move around a little bit. Right now we're seeing them on the north side, but I think it depends on where people are. You know, like in the winter months, they describe them, because I'm not a Block Island resident, but I'm speaking there tomorrow night. But they have different places they tend to like, and it seems to me that they just try to avoid the people. Now, the question here, I think, is going to become, and we'll get to this in a second, right now there's not a big enough seal colony at Block Island for any white shark to stick around. Simply not enough. And they don't want to sit around trying to chase sharks all day. But at Cape Cod, that's very different. There's tens of thousands of them. So that's something we'll have to think about a little bit, I guess. Hopefully not too soon. So, and here's the other detection we got last year. This is Point Judith. That's the center wall. That was pretty neat. We got that shark there. That shark actually started not far from here. It started in Quanaketag. We picked it up and it ran the whole coast. It got here and decided it was going to move on. We don't know where it went after that. So here's what we did this year. So now we've added a receiver here for the first time, and we've added a receiver down here for the first time. These receivers in total cost about $3,500 each. A lot of work to put them together, chains, mushrooms, deployment. So whatever, there are 9 here, so $30,000 worth of equipment. So it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, but we're learning every single time. So the first thing you should note here is look again. So far this year, nothing again on this west side, excuse me, east side. The receivers? Yeah. Yeah. We're supposed to get 20 years out of that receiver. That's what they claim, but I think the technology is going to change so much that we'll have different ones in 5 years. That's my guess.
Hold this question if you're going to get to
Yeah.
it. Presuming that your goal is to help preserve these species, Of what value is this data in accomplishing that goal?
Yeah, and that's gonna come up in, well, you know, I could tackle a little bit of that now. So, Rhode Island was kind of considered the black hole relative to data because there were no acoustic receivers here at all. So the question was, do we have a white shark population? If we do have a white shark population, is there any residency, right? Do they live here? Are they staying here? Are these sharks that are going up to the Cape? Are they going up to Maine? Are they going up to Canada? And thirdly, when you look at the population dynamics here, we're also starting to take tissue samples for these. We're doing DNA analysis, so we're going to try to build a family tree of, okay, we're catching the juveniles and we're catching young of the year near Montauk. So we're also wondering, as these sharks come through and as we track their migratory patterns up and down the coast, we're trying to get a sense of the distribution of these, because some of these areas, like we're concerned with the Cape, right? If a catastrophic event happened and the seal population just crashed, what do we do? You know, what are all these white sharks doing? Where are they going? You know, what's their next step? And how much is that food source dependent on how they're distributed throughout the East Coast? We're seeing a real, we think there's a reemergence of white sharks, but again, this is just one small part of the globe, right? They're critically endangered in many parts of the world. We look like we're getting a larger population here. I think we are, and for that reason, we're really starting to focus on the smaller ones, the young of the year, the newborns, because those are the ones we think are going to be more valuable to the study and tracking through over the coming years. That's the concept anyway, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about that in a minute. Yes?
How do you find these sharks, and when you find them, how do you actually are able to work with them? What do you do to make them accessible?
Yeah, so believe it or not, this is hand-to-hand combat, so we're fishing for these sharks. We're literally, like for these white sharks, yesterday we caught a great white. My daughter Olivia was on the boat, a spot that we have, certain techniques, certain bait, not far from Block Island, Montauk. We caught a 4-foot 1-inch great white. That's a newborn. Literally rod and reel, get it up to the boat, keep the boat moving, keep the water going over the gills, measure it, get a tag in it, sex it, determine it, try to get a tissue sample if we can, so we can make it part of the tree, and away it goes. We think the smallest one ever caught and tagged was a 4-footer, so this was 4 foot 1 inch. Extremely valuable because Greg Scommel up in the Cape, for example, has tagged 230 great whites. It's the largest study ever. The issue is the sharks that are up in Cape Cod are really large subadults and adults because they're feeding on the seal population up there. These small ones can't. So very few of the small ones have been tagged, and we're very curious about where they're residing. And we think we might have a residency here in Rhode Island, but we're not sure yet. So it's really, and like the one I said we got down in the Carolinas, rod and reel. What's nice about that is that Greg's tagged 230, but those are all free swimming that he tags with a plane, telling them, hey, there they are. The problem, not a problem, that's an amazing study. The issue is, like, you can't put a spot tag in that because you can't get and attach it to the dorsal fin. You know, you can't take a tissue sample that easily because it's swimming, and as soon as you hit that with a dart, away it goes. So there are other things Greg's now starting to add to that study which are adding to the value of it. So catching it by rod and reel, though, is one at a time. It takes a long time. We've been lucky. We went out, and our partner, Dr. Craig O'Connell, who you probably saw 10 times on Shark Week this year, he caught one today, another one today. So we're really excited about that. So that's our 7th tag we've deployed for the Institute on these very hard to catch, little studied white sharks. So one thing I can tell you, all of the sharks, we're now up to 20. Every one of them goes to Cape Cod, to Maine, and up to Canada. We don't have any residency right now. It seems like they're slamming into Block Island. They don't even bother to come around this side to see what's going on yet. Not one of the 20 has come around here to say, hey, what's going on? They all go. We're thinking about adding another receiver down in here. We're thinking about adding another receiver because they do have to come around the North Rip. But right now, none of them are investigating. So it's almost like they know, hey, I'm getting to Cape Cod. I know there's 50,000 seals there, and I'm not going to waste my time hanging around here too long. The difference is the small ones. The smaller great whites, they can't tackle the seals. They're much happier in this area. So this is what we have so far. 2 again here, 1, 1, 2 here, 1. These are a couple, so here we got a second detection from that one. Here we got 2, one was this one was that one. So again, what's neat about this is we're starting to get a sense of their fine scale movements, how they're moving around this island. So they'll hit here and they'll come this way. We haven't had any trip this one yet, but again, I may need to put one further north to see what we really have up there. Good news is they're all, most of them are out at Block Island. The ones that we're finding inshore are smaller. And here's an example of that. June, you may have heard, we got a white shark in a fish trap inside the Harbor of Refuge, so it was in Point Judith. And in July, we got one just outside the Harbor of Refuge. Both of these were caught by a fish trap fisherman, Ian Campbell, who we partner with. So I had worked with Ian on tagging, showed him how to tag, gave him tags, told him how to do it. We practiced it, and it was a classic case of opportunity meets preparation. So he called and said, "You're not going to believe what's in my net. I got a great white." I was like, "You're kidding me." Tag that thing, get the measurements, sex it, go the whole thing. So super exciting. First time ever in Rhode Island, and we did it twice. This one showed up on the 3rd of July, so we decided to talk about that one on the 7th of July. We decided we'd wait 4 days because everyone at DEM said, and we agreed, we're like, "Hey, listen, why don't we just, And and at the same time, by the way, there was a dead whale that came right in here, minke whale. So we're not sure if there was a connection because this one showed up, no whale. Then we had the whale come in, this one showed up, so it's the classic case of why was that white shark there? We don't know if it was the whale or it wasn't, but they love whale.
Yes, do these sharks hunt in schools, and how long do the pups stay with their mother?
Yeah. So how long do the pups stay with the mothers? Not at all. They birth them and they go in 2 directions. There have been a number of incidences of, mothers cannibalize immediately say, "Hey, that looks like a treat," and attacking their newborn. But they do have something that turns off, their appetite for a little bit. So that's kind of, a little bit of a protection element for them. And then in terms of schooling, no, it's interesting. These smaller whites, right? These young of the year, it's 7 feet, 6 feet, 5 feet, 4. We tend to see activity that kind of comes in a little bit of a wave. So at that size, we think there is a little bit of schooling mentality. But as they get larger, when we're fishing, we tend to catch 1, maybe 2. We did have one a couple of years ago. We had 7 really large ones on in one day. So, but more often than not, they're kind of solitary. Till a whale shows up. A whale shows up, all bets are off. They come out of nowhere, which is really interesting because, again, when we all thought about, oh, gee, great whites, they're all in Cape Cod, there's none here. Well, now we're up to 20 in 2.5 summers. So again, if 95% aren't tagged, how many are coming through? So I think the lesson is there's been a lot of these sharks here for a long time. This isn't new. We're just developing technology so that we can figure it out and track them and learn more about them. But this isn't a proliferation of, holy cow, now the sea is teeming with white sharks. We're just getting better at determining where they are, when they are, and this technology is helping us do that. Yes?
Is it true if you wear a black wetsuit that you might look like a seal and be tempting for a shark?
Yeah. So if you're wearing a black wetsuit, would you look like a seal, and that would that be tempting to a white shark or a shark in particular? Yeah, Yeah, there's been a number, like that poor woman in Maine last year. She was in a wetsuit, they were swimming. If you look at a seal and you look at somebody in a wetsuit with 2 arms and 2 legs, they look very, very similar. And what we describe that as is a shark, like a white shark making a mistake. That shark, if white sharks wanted to bite everybody, attack everybody, we wouldn't get in the water, right? They're very smart, they can be calculating. But as you can imagine, they're opportunistic feeders, right? They don't have a place to go where they can grab a meal whenever they want. They're cruising along, and boom, there's an opportunity, and they respond quickly. So in that case, seal, boom, devastating bite. And I've been in the water before in cages, and you see them make that move, and it is awe-inspiring. Because they are just cruising along like they're doing 2 miles an hour, like they don't have a care in the world, and suddenly there's a bait on the surface, and they turn on like that. 2 swishes of the tail, it looks like they're doing 40 miles an hour. And they just go up and do a breaching attack out of the water sprays everywhere. So it's one of those things where, There's a gentleman who just swam from Block Island to Jamestown. And Elizabeth Beisel is going to be swimming, the Olympic, and I'm going to be on the boat. She's swimming in September. She's going to go from Block Island to Point Judith. The gentleman wore a shark deterrent device that basically puts an electric field in the water around him to deter sharks. And I was asked the question, how effective do I think that is? And my answer was pretty simple. The blue shark that I showed you earlier, they're very inquisitive. They come in a little slow. They come in, they poke a little bit, they get closer and closer. Absolutely very effective. The way those sharks hunt, very effective tool. Great white, breaching attack, decides that's a seal, that's an opportunity, and is coming up at 30 miles an hour at a ton. And 4 feet before or 5 feet before, they get this sense of, and I said, I don't know.
Why don't they make wetsuits white? Why don't they change the color of the wetsuit?
Yeah, good question. Why don't they change the color of the wetsuits? I don't know. You'd think they'd make circles on them and have all sorts of prints. Yeah, just something just so they wouldn't look that way. So they've got white and black, and I don't know. I thought about that for a long time.
Against the sky.
Yeah.
What color it is going to be darker than.
There you go.
You said at the beginning you deployed the hunting of sharks for fins. Who does that and why?
Yeah, so the hunting of sharks for fins. Shark fin soup is a delicacy in the Orient, and it has been for a long, long time. It's very, very expensive. So it's created this entire trade, this trade of shark fins. They cut them off, they dry them. So the United States, you cannot cut fins off a shark and throw it back in the water alive, which if they're not regulated, they do, which is horrific because the shark just sinks to the bottom and suffocates because it can't swim. So it just sits there and suffocates. Illegal. Can't do it. If you take a shark legally, you can cut the fin. Now it's dead. You're going to eat it. You're going to consume it. It's a Mako. It's a legal size. You can cut the fins off of that and sell them if you want, if you have the opportunity to do so. So here's the great white we tagged in Point Judith on the 21st, in June. Pretty, isn't she? Gorgeous. There's our fish trap fisherman. She went in. Look at all the scup. She went in to do that. They put a tag in her and away she went. Really cool. This shark pinged our receiver at the Southwest Ledge. So she went out and hit one of our receivers already, a month later. So we tagged her in June. She showed up a month later on one of our receivers. So the first shark we've tagged that also hit our receiver. Very cool. Here's the second one we tagged in July. Same group, said you're not going to believe this. After a long, long time, waiting a long years, we just got a second one now.
How do you keep them like that?
That literally, they're in a fish trap, so this trap is large, and as they start bringing it in and they start cinching it up, suddenly the water starts to vibrate, and they start saying, what's in it? And here come the fish, and suddenly they say, we have a great white in here. So the rule of thumb is get that shark out of there as fast as you can because that shark's been confined to a small space. It's been swimming in a net, and they've been very, very good at it. We're 2 for 2. So before this, they just do the same thing, get rid of them, but now it's tell us the size, sex, and get a tag in it. So here's all our receivers. Not easy to see, but these dark blue, this is us, the Atlantic Shark Institute, all around Block Island. Here's our receiver over here at Fisher's Island. There's Watch Hill. Here's ours at Point Judith, and we put one at Scarborough for the first time. We haven't checked that one yet. These lighter blue, this is all Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, our partner in this research. So between us, we now have 28. You can see they're doing a bunch of stuff up here in the bay, and we're doing more of the offshore stuff. So 2019, first time ever that Rhode Island has had acoustic receivers, so we're delighted to be a part of this. And they've been a great partner. So, young of the year, juvenile white sharks, hard to find. Very few have been tagged. As a result, each one is disproportionately important. We tagged 1 last year, and we've tagged 5, but that's now 6 because we tagged 1 today. So, very first one we tagged went to areas that we were really surprised about because of its size. Because again, it doesn't matter if you're a great white or you're not, you go to a place where everyone's 3 times your size and you become a meal. That's what's always interesting about this stuff. You don't know until you do it, and then you do it, and you think, well, what is that shark doing there? Why is that little shark way offshore with the big boys? where, of course, everyone's saying, oh, they're all along the coast, Long Island, they're in Jersey, there's these little estuaries, they're in these little spots where they don't get hurt. And the very first one we tag goes off and does something that we all say, that's a little surprising. This is hot off the presses. So look at this shark, look at the teeth on this shark. This shark is 4 feet 1 inch long. This shark was born probably in May, maybe June. It's only 4 feet 1 inch long, and that was yesterday. My daughter Olivia's in the back. We caught this shark at 12:45, and she looked wonderful. We put an acoustic tag, the one that we're passing around, and she swam off, and we hope to track her now for 10 years. But look at those teeth. Wild, huh? They come out ready to roll.
Name that shark Olivia?
Oh, did I name that shark Olivia? I have not named that shark yet. That's a very good question.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Well, you know, last week we caught one with Abigail, my other daughter, so I don't know, we'll have to see. And then Mom wants one named after her, too, so, you know, we'll have to see. All right, so, and then a couple of quick things because we're over. So the question really becomes now, okay, if they're not tagged, what are we doing? How do you know, what do you deal with when a shark's not tagged? If they're not tagged, how do we know what's going on? We built BRUVS. This is a structure, it's got a camera attached to it. This is a baited cage. We have a line to the surface. We drop it to the bottom, we put bait in it. It's got a high-def GoPro, and we video everything in high def for 1 hour and 5 minutes. We deploy these every 2 weeks around Block Island, both Southwest Ledge and around the Block Island Wind Farm. So if something's not tagged, what do we know? Well, now we've got 40 hours, and we'll finish with about 100 hours of high-def video all around Block Island, and we're going to see what that leads to. If you've ever been on our website or our Instagram or anything, you'll see we got a really neat cow nose ray the other day, coming right at it's really neat, coming right at the camera. Got like thousands of hits. So allows us to confirm spot sheets, you know, that aren't tagged, shark species, high def, and also other fish are attracted to it. So it's kind of neat for us to see what also is coming around there. So that's your BRUV. So this is going to be that ray, but here's an example. There's some bait, and those are a bunch of dogfish sharks swimming around it at Southwest Ledge in Block Island. Southwest Ledge is vibrant. It's wonderful. Block Island Wind Farm, not so much. Kind of flat, barren. This is gorgeous, Southwest Ledge, which is why so many fishermen love it. So that's how we kind of keep track of what's going on that doesn't have a tag in it. So how can you help? Well, become a shark advocate. You know, support efforts to learn more about them. It's financial support for these projects. We have different levels that people can give to. Really big need for boat owners. Mike Criatoro, who's a Watch Hill resident, he went out last year. So what we need is boat owners. We have a group of researchers, and they never have enough money. Anybody in science knows that. So if we can get them out to the grounds at no cost to them, it's a really, really good thing. And you can also, we have gear, sweatshirts, and T-shirts here and other things. AtlanticSharkInstitute.org. And so you can take a look at those. And that's one of our receivers out by the Block Island Wind Farm. And we hope to keep adding these receivers and adding more and more to this vital research.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.